Hello everyone, my name is AJ, and I don't have a good intro. Quite literally this week, as almost all of you know, I have made a lot of Has-Been Hotel and Hell of a Boss videos. I love Christian mythology, and I love designing demons and monsters. However, I have found Vivzi's version of Hell does have a specific aesthetic to it, and while I do enjoy it, I have found it a teeny bit limiting, and I would like to be able to branch off and do like my own stuff for once, you know? So, ladies and gentlemen, and everything in between, I am pleased to announce to you all my first ever truly original story, In Search of Eden. Please check the description for trigger warnings before you proceed. Our story starts with the end, the rapture. All at once, every decent person was taken up to heaven, all in a flash, leaving only the wicked and petty. There was no ceremony, no procession, no fanfare, no light, nothing. It happened in the blink of an eye. One moment they were there, the next they were gone, and in their place the resurrected bodies of sinners long dead. The gates of death had opened, releasing all of its prisoners at once. All of its prisoners. Demons. Prisoners left over from heaven's great war were finally free. Free to take up their own bodies, free to experience the full range of sensations. Pain, pleasure, joy, fear, hunger, and need. Free to explore the world that God had created. Free to burn it. There would be 1,000 years before the earth would be baptized by fire, and evil sealed away forever. 1,000 years for them to play. 1,000 years to exact their vengeance on the humans that had wasted the gift of life. 1,000 years to maim, to kill, to lie, cheat, steal, rape, murder, and feast. But humanity, the ever-present cockroaches of sentient life, they are not easily stopped in the face of certain death and pain. From reproducing, humans continued to have children, sometimes on purpose, almost always on accident, either from assuming the gates of life were closed, or from pure carelessness. Life will continue until it is snuffed out by Satan himself and his horde. Anemia and her older brother Ransom were both born in a secluded sledding dog resort turned bunker, where they were isolated from the rest of human society. Under normal circumstances, their isolation would have been a tragedy, especially with a fanatical pair of parents deluded into thinking they are Mary and Joseph reborn and will give birth to the new Christ. However, in this case, it was necessary for their continued survival. During the early days, demons focused on the heavily populated cities first, where the density of prey would be the greatest, only spreading out when those humans became more sparse. Ransom was named for his purpose, to be given to Satan in return for salvation. He was born a full 19 years earlier than Anemia. Mary insisted that it was a virgin birth, and their father, though not fully convinced at first, soon became just as radical in his thinking. Sign after definitely not manufactured sign piled up, and they were certain they had succeeded in creating a new Christ. They just needed to wait for him to be old enough to sacrifice. Life continued. Food ran low. Dogs had to be eaten. There was simply not enough food to keep all 16 of them alive. Only 2 were kept. Soon after, only 1 black and white puppy, Wolf. Their younger daughter was created completely by accident. She was named because her birth nearly killed their mother, who was 43 when she was born. She lost a lot of blood, but she did survive. Anemia is the condition where you have a low amount of red blood cells, and this is the name she was given. Her first mistake, her birth, held over her head forever. Wolf's youth came and went. He soon could not hunt anymore, and only 4 mouths could be fed. The 5th had to be put down and eaten. They chose to keep their daughter. The daughter could be put to work. Wolf would have lived if they were willing to put their son to work, but they couldn't risk it. They couldn't risk spending their ransom before it came time to pay, and so they blamed Anemia. After a long 33 years, on Christmas Day, it was time. It was finally time. 33 years, the age Jesus was when he was killed. Their parents recreated the crucifixion, complete with the torture that preceded it. Ransom was dead before he ever touched his cross. Their sacrifice now made, their ransom now paid, they expected any day now they'd be swept up to heaven. In the blink of an eye, taken on chariots of fire, ascended into the sky. However it happened, it would happen. It would happen within 3 days, they were sure of it. Within a week, they were sure of it. Within a month, they were sure of it.
It's Anemia's fault,
they began to murmur. It had to be. They had done everything else right. They'd even shown mercy to the child that had tried to kill Mother Mary. Every day that went by without heaven, their hatred for her grew. They wanted to kill her. But they were sent something, just before they worked up the anger to follow through on their plans. They awoke one night to the sound of human fingernails scraping at the frozen ground they had dug their shelter into. Thinking that finally the angels had come for them, Joseph threw open the metal door and ran out to meet them. A demon, 6 feet tall and twice the length from nose to tail. Its very body mocked them, stretched out and wiry like a snake, front paws that held its back up in a hunch, back legs that were far too short for it, a serpent's tail and neck, and attached at the end of it was the face of their son. Important features like the nose and mouth were missing entirely, as if they had never existed, but it was unmistakably his, all covered in husky fur, matted with the blood they'd tried to make their ransom sweat. Mary pulled the metal grate shut before the beast could get inside. It pounded on the metal door that did not budge, but it did not stop. It returned to its digging. It would only be a matter of time before it got inside, and there was no other way out.
This is all your fault. I knew it. I knew you were a mistake. Your filth has brought this creature here. You've killed your own father. You made me disgusting. I was the Virgin Mary. I'm supposed to be saved. I'm supposed to be pure. I hate you!
Anemia caught her mother's wrist before the blade could connect with her skin. Years of hunting with her father had grown the strength in her that she needed to protect herself. She twisted the knife out of her mother's grasp and pushed her to the other side of the room. She held the knife toward her mother.
Come any closer and I'll kill you! I will!
Mary did not try to attack her again. She let herself sink to the floor and wept for her son, her husband, her dog, herself. It was all over. She had sacrificed so much, and none of it had mattered. Anemia curled in on herself. She wished she could go to her mother for comfort, but that would end in another fight, possibly death. She wished that Ransom were here. She wished she were about to die with someone who loved her. It took 2 days for the creature to get in, but it never gave up. Anemia had prayed it would get bored and hunt somewhere else, but she had figured it wouldn't leave until they were both dead. Even if it stopped digging, she expected it would wait for them to come out for food and hunt them then, but it didn't stop digging, even to sleep. It had one goal, one drive. It made a hole just big enough for it to get its front leg through, a horribly deformed dog's leg with fur that was too long, tipped with dirty human fingers. It felt around for the handle to the bunker's door. Anemia summoned all her strength and all her courage and stabbed it. The demon wailed. It grabbed her by the head and yanked her out through the hole, haphazardly tossing her over its shoulder. The breath spilled out of her lungs, leaving her stunned and gasping. When she finally recovered enough to get up, her mother was nothing more than a puddle of gore on the bottom of the bunker floor. The demon was sitting outside, cleaning its hands in the snow. Anemia's head told her to run, but another part of her told her that she would die anyway. With no coat, no tools, no supplies, it wouldn't matter how far from this monster she got. The environment alone was certain death. It did not look at her when she approached, or when she went behind it into the bunker to retrieve her coat and knife. Not wanting to push her luck, she left the second she had those two necessities. She stopped at the forest's edge and looked back. She flinched. It was only a few feet behind her. Its steps were silent, even in the snow, and its feet left no prints. It tilted its head at her. She mimicked its motion. It moved its head forward to smell her. It must have liked the scent because it licked her. A tongue had emerged through a vertical slit in its face that was next to invisible when closed. She took a deep breath, placed her hand on its head, and stroked its fur. It leaned into her touch. She pet it with more confidence. He rolled on his belly.
The Lord has sent me a miracle.
A miracle that she named Rolf, in honor of her brother and dog, who she missed so dearly. It had been a year. Rolf had never left. He followed her everywhere she went. They only stayed at the bunker until winter had run its course. Finally, though, it was spring. The land had thawed enough that travel out of the mountains was possible. Maybe it would be more dangerous in the warmer states, but Anemia just couldn't bear to stay here any longer than she had to. She packed herself a sleeping bag, what was left of the first aid kit, every essential tool she could think of, and as much food and water as the two of them could carry. She tied the heaviest bags onto Rolf, and with one last look at the only home she'd ever known, the two were off, in search of Eden. I would absolutely love to make this a series if I can. It would be purely conceptual in nature, in the exact same style as I just recited. I wouldn't give it nearly as much polish as my other work, which I promise is still coming out. I wanted to make something a teeny bit easier that I could use to keep my channel alive while I finish up production on the good stuff. So you've seen the pilot now, so you know about half the premise. Hell and Earth have merged, but humans kept on having babies, so now there's a bunch of people on the planet that are nearly perfectly innocent. Earth and Hell weren't the only things that merged though, so did Pangea. Now no one's separate from each other, and everything on the planet, quite literally, is within walking distance if you have the time. Most importantly for our story though, a lot of the land has inverted, so high places have become low and low places have become high, including the Mediterranean Sea, where I theorize all of the known world was before it was filled up by the Great Flood. I believe the Garden of Eden is hidden by all of this water, and with all of it now gone in our story, it can be walked to. Despite her horrible parents, Anemia still accepts the Christian Bible to be fact, and truly believes that Eden is a real place that she can actually get to. The use of "in search of Eden" at the end of the pilot right now is completely metaphorical. At this point in time, she's looking for somewhere that will be peaceful for her and Rolf to live. Her old home in Alaska has just got too many bad memories for her to stay. Otherwise, she would be happy enough there until she got lonely a few years later. Soon enough though, like next episode, the plan is for her to find updated maps of the world and discover that it is possible to get there on foot. On her journey, she has planned to meet at least 3 more characters and encounter a ton of demons, almost in a Monster of the Week type thing. This series was originally conceived in my brain as an excuse to draw some cool demons, but this time I get to use my own usual aesthetic, instead of having to make everything kind of conform a little bit to Vivsy Pops. Something else that I wanted to do with the series that I've never done before is to write it out almost like a D&D campaign, where certain events will have different outcomes based on the roll of a die. In the pilot, the only die roll was when Anemia's mother attacked her. She wasn't going to die here, but if she had rolled lower than a 3 on the 6-sided die, she would have had to roll a 3-sided die for how many scars she would have gotten. The stakes will get higher and higher as the series goes on. Once we've assembled all 4 characters together is when things are going to really get bad, because then death comes onto the table. Once they've all met, anyone can die at any time, Anemia and Rolf included. No one is safe. I knew that if I wanted to design some cool, freaky demons and have people actually be scared of them, I needed a human character for them to prey on, and specifically, I wanted a human character that you can instantly feel protective of. And adults can take care of themselves. Children and animals have an element of helplessness that is very difficult to replicate with any grown-up, so I thought a group of children would be the best set of characters for me to use for this. I knew that I wanted 2 girls and 2 boys, and Rolf didn't really become a thing until I started drawing, and now that he exists, I've now realized that I've just made Scooby-Doo, but make it Christian and dark. Anemia was the first character that I really had a solid idea for. I wanted her to be dark-skinned, about 15, with a really fluffy coat made of husky fur that makes her look bigger than she is. I also knew for certain that I wanted her weapon to be a homemade spear that's just a knife tied to the end of a stick. I was going to give her a full stuffed dog's head mask, but that's really gruesome, and also the perspective is hard, so I decided to just keep it to the ears. I didn't go in with an actual backstory for her until after I drew her. I usually sketch before I write anything to help me come up with an idea, then I go back and edit the designs after. My only concept for Rolf going in was, well, I don't want the dog to be actually dead, but I still need her to have the husky fur. What if it came back to life? So I drew it as this cute but also creepy little monster. It's a pretty standard demon design for me if you've been following my work for a while. Worm-like with lots of fun swoops, very fluffy with a short flattened mask at the end of the neck, short back legs, long front legs, and human hands. I do a lot of demons like that. I only came up with a concept for Rolf after fully designing him. He's got human bits, but why? Where did he get those from? So while writing my first draft, I came up with my final concept. He really is a demon, a perfectly normal demon. He's been stalking their family completely bodiless for years, waiting for one of them to die so he could take their body. He didn't just get Ransom's body though, all of his thoughts and feelings came with it. It was painful. To balance it out, he dug up the bones of their husky and meshed that into himself, eventually coming to form his current body. In both Ransom and Wolf's heads, 2 thoughts kept reoccurring: kill Mary and Joseph, and protect Anemia. And so that is what Rolf did, and will continue to do. Protecting Anemia is the only thing he wants to do, and that desire has gone so far that he will pull off chunks of his tail to keep her fed. That's what the little red spot on the end of his tail is. It's a wound that he gave himself to feed her once she had gotten sick and couldn't hunt. There are other demons similar to Rolf, but they're not good like Rolf is. They take on like the old memories and thoughts of whatever they choose to make part of their body, and since the world is supposed to be made of entirely sinners with nothing good in it, the rest of them are very evil. But that's only for Rolf's specific type of demon. There are other types of demons too that I cannot wait to design if only this series does good. Because if the series does bad, then I can't keep doing it because I have bills to pay. Anyway, that's all I've got for now. Merch, commissions, and an extra special thank you goes out to my patrons: JRDS, CDN Redneck 05, Immortal Jesse, Mercer Scott Holt, Stephen Drake, The Fun Guy, Chase Johnson, QB, Honey, Jay Draws, and Silent Savvy. Don't forget to blaspheme the like button by torturing it to death and tying it to a cross. Bye-bye!